Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So I believe that Haima said we're on page 555, is that correct?
Yes, Brother Shankara. It's a third paragraph. Do you want me to start it?
Yes, Holy Mother returns to Calcutta.
Yes. One morning, Saradananda bowed down to Holy Mother and said, Mother, this time we shall not return to Calcutta without you. You will have to come with us. She did not object. She only said, but my son, before I go to Calcutta, I shall restart my journey from Jairampati. On 29th April.
Just to interrupt,
Sure.
the reason for that is, if you remember, she had been quite ill with a very high fever. And so she had gone to the Koalpara ashrama so that the monks could look after her there. And that's why Saradananda was there and all that, and Dr. Kanjilal. And so that's why she said, I'm not going to start for Calcutta from here. I'll start from Jairambati. And the reason for this will be revealed to us as we go on. Thank you, Haima.
Sure. On 29 April, Saradananda arranged a palanquin for the mother, and everyone went with her to Jairampati. The villagers came to see her and said, Mother, we almost lost hope that we would see you again. We are extremely happy that you're well. This time I really suffered from a terrible fever, she replied. Sharath, Kanjilal, and others came. I got well by the grace of Mother Simhavahini. Sharath is asking me to go to Calcutta. If all of you approve, I shall go and recuperate there. Everyone consented. When Holy Mother was sick in Kolpara, Radhu left for Tajpur with her husband. Now the mother sent Brahmachari Bharada to Radhu to ask if she wanted to go with her to Calcutta. Radhu came to Jairampati to meet Holy Mother, but declined to go with her to Calcutta. The day before Holy Mother left Jairampati, Brahmachari Bharada caught some fish from the Punyapakur. Saradananda encouraged him to catch more. Then he suggested that Bharada show those fish to Holy Mother and invite all members of her family for lunch. Holy Mother's brothers had high regard for Saradananda. Knowing that it was Saradananda's wish, the mother was very pleased. It was a grand feast. The mother stood near the door and watched them eat with great joy. On 5th May, 1918, Holy Mother left Jairambati by palanquin. She stopped in Kolpara that night. Saradananda and others continued to Vishnupur by bullock cart, but a horse carriage was brought from Vishnupur for the mother because her body was weak. On the 6th morning, she left Kolpara and arrived at Sureshwar Sen's house in Vishnupur by 11 o'clock that morning. The next day, on 7th May 1918, Holy Mother and her party left Vishnupur by train and reached Udbodhan at 8 o'clock that night. Sarala recalled details of the trip. A date was fixed for our return to Calcutta. From Jairambati, the mother left by palanquin, and we went by bullock cart to Kolpara, where we halted a day. Revered Sharat Maharaj hired 2 horse carriages from Bankura, paying 30 rupees, so that the mother might not suffer during the journey to Vishnupur. A bullock cart was arranged for Nalini, Makhu, and Mandakini. A bed was made by placing a box between the seats of the horse carriage, and some pillows were put on one side so that the mother could comfortably recline on it. The mother commented, "Look what a beautiful arrangement Sharat has made." On her way, the mother stopped at one place. At that time, there was no horse carriage in that area. So hearing the noise, the villagers assembled on both sides of the road. The carriage arrived at Vishnupur at 11 o'clock in the morning. Sureshwar Sen's house was in a lane, decorated with banana trees, mango leaves, and auspicious paintings on the ground. Devotees were assembled on both sides of the lane, as if they were waiting to worship a divine image. The mother got down from the horse carriage and reached Sureshwar's house by a palanquin. The mother entered her assigned room, took out the master's picture from the tin box, worshipped him, and offered Naivedya on sal leaves.
What is Naivedya?
Naivedya is arati.
Okay.
Arati is another word. Naivedya is prasadam and include everything.
Thank you.
On sal leaves, I believe it's betel leaves, sal. Usually we do that on betel leaves. It says sal leaves. I really don't know the meaning of sal. I have to look into that.
Anyone else know what sal leaves are? All right.
Could be banana leaf, or some similar to that. Or some of the trees have very big leaves, so they use them for as a plate, instead of using plate in the villages. Some of the trees have very big leaves. I don't know the names of those trees, but there are many such trees in India.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Shyam.
Yes, thank you.
She then said, "I'm hungry. Please serve me food." The next day, we left Vishnupur at 11 o'clock in the morning and reached Howrah after evening.
Howrah is the station in Calcutta.
Yes. A carriage was waiting and we safely reached Udbodhan house. That's the end of the chapter 28, Brother Shankara.
Okay.
We are moving to Udbodhan, the mother's house.
Yes.
If anybody has any comments.
Yeah, I have one comment is that, I hear the name of Dr. Kanjilal treating Holy Mother, but I never heard that name treating Dr. Kanjilal Thakur, that is Ramakrishna. So at that time, was he not there?
I don't believe that Dr. Kanjala did treat the master. No, there were just why heaven only knows. There were so many doctors that they brought to try and.
Yeah, but I hear the names of Mahendralal Sarkar or somebody like that very often, but never heard the name of Kanjilal. But now he's associated more with Holy Mother.
Yes. I think he was an allopath. Most of the doctors that treated Sri Ramakrishna were homeopaths.
Oh.
At least that's my recollection. I could be wrong. So anyway, anything else from anyone? Thank you, Sham. All right. Udbodan. Now, just a little bit for the benefit of those who don't know. Swami Sharadananda, or Sharat as he's referred to, was a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He was one of the master's closest disciples and very devoted. After the order of monks was formed, Mother was the real head of the order while she was alive. Not formally, but in an organizational sense, but in an informal but very direct sense. Swami Brahmananda, the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, was the president of the order. That was not a ceremonial job. It was very much a job of starting new centers around India and managing the monastics. Swami Sharadananda was the general secretary of the Ramakrishna order. Though he didn't live at Belrumat, he lived in Calcutta at this Udbodan house where they published a magazine. And also where he wrote the book, The Great Master. He built that place for Holy Mother so that she would have her own place in Calcutta. And she had the upper floors. The monks, Swami Sharadananda and the other monks who worked there, lived in the lower floor, the street floor. So that's and this general secretary in an organization in India and many other places around the world, the general secretary is actually the chief executive officer. So the presidency and the chief executive officer, the general secretary is the head of the board of trustees and so on and so forth. The president has a more outreaching and pastoral or ministerial role. Swami Sharadananda was very much the financial and business manager of the Ramakrishna order in its beginning. So that's a little bit about Udbodan, which is called here the Mother's House, because that's why Swami Sharadananda built it. They could have published that magazine in any number of places, but and Sharadananda could have had his office in any number of places, but he elected to create a place where he could be near the Holy Mother and take care of her. Anything else from anyone? Any comments or questions? Okay, please read on, Haima.
Chapter 29, Udbodan, the Mother's House. I will read a hymn by Swami Avedananda in English translation. Be gracious, O Mother, we humbly beseech you, who are ever affectionate to your children. Please soothe our burning hearts by pouring one drop of your infinite love into them.
Could you read that over again, please?
Definitely. Be a hymn by Swami Avedananda.
Swami Abhedananda was again another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He spent 22 years in the West teaching at the direction of Swami Vivekananda. He was very, very devoted to Holy Mother. So this is one of his hymns to her, or a portion of it. Go ahead.
Be gracious, O Mother, we humbly beseech you, who are ever affectionate to your children. Please soothe our burning hearts by pouring one drop of your infinite love into them. Ramakrishna said to Holy Mother, look at the people of Calcutta. They are like worms squirming in darkness. You must bring light to them. In 1909, when Udbodhan House was built in North Calcutta, Holy Mother began to fulfill the Master's command in earnest. People came to her for spiritual awakening, not only from Calcutta, but also from all over India and even from Europe and America. In fact, Udbodhan House, which is also called Mayor Barry or Mother's House, became an oasis for suffering souls and seekers of God. Many important events are connected with Udbodhan House. Several distinguished people met Holy Mother in this house. For example, Aurobindo Ghosh, one of the greatest Indian revolutionaries, met the mother there on a Sunday in 1910 and sought her blessing. His wife, Mrinalini Devi, and his mother also came to Udbodhan House to receive the mother's blessing. 3 young men who were connected with the freedom movement in India regularly visited the mother in Calcutta. They later became her disciples and joined the Ramakrishna order, eventually becoming Swamis Prajnanananda, Chinmayananda, and Atma Prakashananda. Also, Sister Nivedita and Sister Christine often visited Holy Mother in Udbodhan House. The mother initiated innumerable devotees there.
Now let's just talk a moment about these 2 women from the West.
Mm-hmm.
Sister Nivedita. Nivedita means the offered one. And Nivedita Margaret Noble was from a very prominent Irish family. She began to attend Swami Vivekananda's classes in London, fought fiercely with him about the ideas he was presenting, ultimately became his disciple, and came to India as the offered one, as her name says, offered to Mother India in order to start a women's movement in India. She did this first by starting a school with the Holy Mother's blessing, in India, in Calcutta, and later went on to preach and teach women's independence and speak against the patriarchy, both the English patriarchy and the Indian patriarchy. It was only because of her English heritage or Irish heritage, her United Kingdom heritage, that she avoided going to prison. Sister Christine, her last name is escaping me right now, Grinstead. Christine Grinstead. She also was initiated into sannyas, she became a nun in the West, being initiated by Swami and ordained by Swami Vivekananda. And she became very, very instrumental in both giving money and raising money to help start the Ramakrishna order. She was a strong personality and less prominent than Vedanta. She was retiring by nature. She was not, Vedanta was outgoing and outspoken. Sister Christine less so. So these are the two women that are mentioned here that was this Holy Mother truly regarded as her daughters. So please go on. Or is there anything else that anyone would like to contribute about any of that? All right, please read on, dear.
The name of Holy Mother's Calcutta house is very significant. Swami Vivekananda started 3 journals during his lifetime. One is Brahmavadin in 1895 in English, Prabuddha Bharata in 1898 in English, and Udbodhan in 1899 in Bengali. The Bengali word Udbodhan means awakening. These journals were meant to disseminate the message of Ramakrishna and the universal teachings of Vedanta. Swami wanted to use the Udbodhan magazine to awaken the divine consciousness that lies dormant within human beings. Perhaps Swamiji had an intuition that one day Holy Mother would awaken the spiritual consciousness of many people from Udbodhan house. Inspired by Swamiji, Swami Trigunatitananda bought a press to publish Udbodhan. Besides the journal, the publication office produced Swami Vivekananda's works in English and Bengali. Until 1908, Udbodhan Press did not have a permanent home. It functioned from a devotee's house or in rented office space. Swami Vivekananda wrote to Swami Shivananda from America in 1894. It follows this way. We must first build a mat for the mother. Mat.
A mat means, in this instance, a convent. It means a monastic residence. This didn't come to pass, but that's what he said. We must first build a monastic residence for the mother, meaning, anyway.
We must first build a mat for the mother. I shall show how to worship the living Durga, and then only shall I be worthy of my name. I shall be relieved when you have purchased a plot of land and established there the living Durga, the mother. The wish of a knower of Brahman is always fulfilled. Saradananda was fortunate to be able to fulfill Swamiji's wish and at the same time to give Udbodhan Press a permanent home. Udbodhan Press operated out of Girindralal Basek's house at 14 Ramachandra Maitra Lane in North Calcutta for some time, but he died in 1906. On 18th July 1906, Kedar Chandra Das donated a small piece of land on Gopal Niyogi Lane in Bagh Bazar to build a publishing house for Udbodhan Press. There were 2,700 rupees in the publication fund, so it was suggested that a tiled shed be built on the donated land in Bagh Bazar. Saradananda decided to build a 2-story brick building instead. The first floor would house the Udbodhan publication office and a shrine. The second floor would contain living quarters for Holy Mother and her companions. Construction began in late 1907, but soon ran into difficulties. The publication fund was enough to pay only for the foundation of the building. So Saradananda borrowed 5,700 rupees from different devotees.
I'll interrupt just to say, this is a very unusual thing for a monk to do, to borrow money. And it was only because he was general secretary of the Ramakrishna order and had that behind him as a guarantee that he felt confident in doing this, and people felt confident in loaning the money. But some people actually gave money rather than just lent it. So it was an interesting period in Saradananda's life where he was making this decision and then going forward with it.
But that was, you want me to go ahead, Brother Shankara?
Mm-hmm, please.
But that was still not enough. Some distinguished devotees then came forward to complete the project. Udbodhan Press moved to its new home in November 1908. And the next subtitle, Description of the Mother's House. Udbodhan House or Mayor Bari is now a branch of Ramakrishna Math. The center is located at 1 Udbodhan Lane in Bagh Bazar. Originally, there were 6 rooms on the first floor, 3 rooms on the second, and 1 room on the third floor to the right side of the staircase. The main entrance is to the north, and next to the kitchen, there is a small back door to the south. A narrow lane, Gopalachandra Niyogi Lane, runs behind the house. At the left side of the entrance, there is a small room which was occupied by Saradananda. It was his parlor and office, as he was the general secretary of the Ramakrishna order till 1927.
Now, when it says a small room, it really is a very small room. And it's where he worked. He had no vanity about his appearance, about his surroundings, about his office. People would come and visit him there. And if there were very many of them, they couldn't all fit in at once. Some would have to sit in the door. So it was really quite a small room. And yet he served as general secretary, that is, chief executive officer of the Ramakrishna order from there. He wrote the biography of the master, called The Great Master or The Divine Play. The two translations have been published from there. And he ran the Ramakrishna order from there. I mean, monks came and went all the time from Belur which was across the river, to get his instructions and to bring him information and so on and so forth. So this is when he said it was occupied by Swami Saradananda. It was his parlor and office. It was awfully small to function in that way. Okay, dear. Thank you.
He wrote most of Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, which is Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, in this room from 1909 to 1919, and thus paid off the loan assumed for building Udbodhan House. There is a small note at the bottom, Brother Shankara, about this Udbodhan House.
Please.
It says, once Saradananda said, I took a loan of 11,000 rupees for building the mother's house. It was a heavy burden on my shoulders. I paid off the debt by selling books. This Udbodhan house was built to keep mother in Calcutta. She was our focal point, and centered on her, I did all my work in a joyful mood. And that's what that note was.
Thank you, dear.
Sure. To the right of the entrance, there are two rooms, one for the Udbodhan publication office and the other for workers and the mother's monastic attendants. At night, the monks slept on the floor of these two rooms. The other three rooms at the back were used as the kitchen, the storeroom, and the men's dining room. Saradananda and the men devotees ate downstairs, and the mother and her women companions ate upstairs in the room adjacent to hers. The small room below the marble staircase was used as a storeroom for the shrine. On 18th December 1909, a small plot of land adjacent and to the east of the house was purchased for 1,850 rupees. In 1915, an addition was constructed there with one room on the first floor and another on the second floor. A narrow wooden staircase attached to the eastern wall connected the two. The men's bathroom was below the staircase, and another bathroom was to the left of the main staircase. The Udbodhan publication office was moved to the lower room of the new section, and the upper room became Saradananda's bedroom.
Before that, he slept in his office.
Wow. The Swami stayed in his office from morning till night and went to sleep after supper. During this period, another room was constructed on the third floor to the north of the staircase. Holy Mother used to sit on the cement roof next to this room and dry her hair in the sun. She was very happy there because she could see the pinnacles of the Kali temple of Dakshineshwar. The panoramic view of the Ganges from the roof of Udbodhan house brought back sweet memories of her days with the master in Dakshineshwar. Ramakrishna's picture had been installed on the marble altar on the east side of the upstairs shrine room. Those dimensions are 24 feet by 9 feet 8 inches and was worshipped daily. Sister Nivedita made a silk canopy that used to be hung over the altar. Holy Mother faced north while worshipping the Master with the altar to her right. She always carried with her the photograph of Ramakrishna that he had once worshipped at Dakshineswar. This photograph was kept on a silver throne when she was in Udbodhan, along with the other photograph of the Master on the right side of the altar. Presently, those two pictures of the Master are kept just as they were during the Mother's time. There was a narrow balcony to the north of the shrine room. In a room adjacent to the shrine, there were two beds, one for Holy Mother and another for her niece Radhu. When she saw this arrangement, Holy Mother said, I can't live separated from the Master. It is not proper. Then both beds were moved to the west side of the shrine room. After the first night, Holy Mother said that two beds made the room too crowded and Radhu could sleep on one side of her bed, which was larger. At her request, the smaller bed was removed from the shrine room. The room adjacent to the shrine became Holy Mother's storeroom. Golapma, the mother's nieces, and other women companions lived in the southern room on the second floor, just to the right of the main staircase and next to the women's bathroom. The women also stayed in rooms on the third floor. Yoginma lived in her father's home at 59/1 Bagbazar Street.
Hold on just a moment.
Sure.
These close companions of the Holy Mother, I'll just remind you, Golapma, Gopalma, Yoginma, these were said by Mother and by others to have been gopis, in that they were part of Sri Krishna's life when he was living as a cowherd in Vrindavan. Being disguised, his presence there was to keep him from being killed by this King Kamsa. These gopis, according to the story, Mother's handmaidens, they requested a special boon to be reborn with her and serve her. And so these are these women that you hear about sleeping in the same quarters with the Mother, Golapma, Gopalma, and Yoginma. So this is an interesting aspect of the story. And they were very close to her and felt very intimate with her. As a matter of fact, Golapma was so outspoken, she would say just about anything to the Mother. So anyway, that's the story about those women that were such close companions and attendants for the Mother and took care of her. Anything else from anyone about that or anything else? Okay, dear.
Yoginma lived in her father's home at 59/1 Bagbazar Street, but came to Udbodhan house every day to help the cook cut vegetables and to serve the Mother. Next side heading is a divine environ. When the construction of Udbodhan house was completed, it was decided that the mother and her companions, Radhu, Bakhu, Nalini, Surabala, Golapma, Mandakini, and others would live upstairs, and the monks and the publication office would be downstairs. When Radhu was married in 1911, her husband Manmatha lived on the third floor of the house from time to time. A couple of monks had concerns about a married couple living together in the same house with monks, especially as Udbodhan house was a branch of the Ramakrishna Math. Swami Asitananda wrote that Saradananda heard about the controversy but did not say anything. Swami Brahmananda, the president of the order, was then in South India. When news of the controversy reached him, he wrote, "My goodness, who is raising questions about the mother's companions living in Udbodhan? The mother and all her companions are welcome in Udbodhan house. Wherever the mother stays, that place is Varanasi, Vrindavan, and the land of liberation." The mother's presence will open the door of liberation there. Swami Brahmananda had
Please read the Swami's letter again, that note that he wrote.
Sure. Swami,
let's hear it as who the mother is.
Yes. Swami Asitananda wrote that Saradananda heard about the controversy but did not say anything. Swami Brahmananda, president of the order, was then in South India. When news of the controversy reached him, he wrote, "My goodness, who is raising questions about the mother's companions living in Udbodhan? The mother and all her companions are welcome in Udbodhan house. Wherever the mother stays, that place is Varanasi, Vrindavan, and the land of liberation. The mother's presence will open the door of liberation there." Swami Brahmananda had such a forceful personality that no monk of the Ramakrishna order contradicted him.
Now, when it said he had a forceful personality, it doesn't mean he was a bully. Anything but. It was said of him that he ruled by love. But they knew that this was coming from a very high place of realization, the monks. And this is why it had the force it had. It wasn't that he had, when it says he had a forceful personality, it doesn't mean that he was, he would railroad you. No. He wouldn't run over you like a truck. He would persuade you by the force of his personality, the force of his personality coming from this high place of spiritual and, for that matter, practical understanding. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, dears. Please go ahead.
The mother's routine and method of worship. Every morning when she was at Udbodhan house, Holy Mother would walk through the back door to the Ganges to bathe with Golapma or another female companion. Thus, she avoided the gaze of the public. As she got older, she bathed in the Ganges on alternate days only because of her rheumatism. During her early days at Udbodhan house, she bathed at Rajghat, Later on, she bathed at Durgacharan Mukherjee's ghat. After bathing, Holy Mother filled a small pitcher with Ganges water, poured some at the bottom of a banyan tree by the side of the road, and bowed down. She always followed local customs. After bathing one day, she gave a banana, a mango, and a pice coin to the priest of the ghat and said, I am offering this fruit to you, but the fruit of this gift is also yours.
Now, that is a very pregnant remark. The fruit of this gift would be liberation. So she was saying to that priest, I am offering you the highest by giving you this. There seems to be a footnote. What does the footnote say?
There is no footnote. It is something reference in the back of the page, number 5. I think it's a book or something like that, Brother Shankara.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's not. There's no footnote here for that.
Okay, then go ahead.
When we read the Bible, we find that the teachings or stories of Jesus were recorded differently by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The wording in each gospel is different from the others. Some stories have more detail than others. We observe the same thing in the reminiscences of the mother's disciples. Her main disciples saw her daily life and her method of worship in Udbodhan house from their own perspectives. Different eyewitness accounts are presented in this chapter so that the reader can see a complete picture of the mother's divine play. Ashutosh Mitra described the mother's daily routine in the following way. She got up very early in the morning. After bathing and changing clothes, she would repeat her mantra with her rosary. She performed the worship of the Master at 8 in the morning and then drank a glass of rock candy syrup. After lunch, she took a little rest, and at 4 in the afternoon, she changed her clothes and repeated her mantra. She cleaned her teeth with tobacco powder, roasted matihari tobacco leaf mixed with ashes of hay 4 times a day. In the morning, after lunch, in the afternoon, and after supper. Next, Swami Asitananda recorded Holy Mother's method of worship. At the beginning of her worship, the mother would take a wet towel and rub the Master's picture from the head to the feet gently and carefully so that the Master might not get any pain. She knew that the Master's body was very soft and that once his finger was cut while breaking a luchi in Dakshineshwar. She then decorated the face and body of the Master's picture with sandal paste using a bell leaf stem. During the worship, she took flowers dipped in sandal paste from the flower tray and placed them at the feet of the Master very gently and artistically. She also offered tulsi and bell leaves. She did not spend much time repeating various mantras. It is natural for people to become hungry after bathing. So she then offered food to the Master. At that time, she was in an exalted mood and could see that the master was taking the essence of the food.
Just to expand on that, she would actually see a light coming from the eyes of the picture and the light touching the food. And then it was her assertion that this was the master actually taking the food, taking the essence of the food.
Asked about her food offering, she said, I don't know why you do not see it, but I see Gopala wearing anklets, sitting on the asana, and drawing out the essence of the food. A light comes from the master's eyes and absorbs the inmost substance of the food.
I didn't realize that was coming next, otherwise I wouldn't have interrupted.
That's okay. When Holy Mother rang the bell during worship, its sound was soft, sweet, and rhythmic, overwhelming the people there. It was a divine sight to see the mother's worship. Sarajubala Sen left this eyewitness account of the mother's food offering. Here it is. Golapma came to the roof and asked the mother to make the offering of food in the shrine room. The mother came down from the roof. I followed her after a while to the shrine room. Like a bashful young bride, she was saying to Sri Ramakrishna in a soft voice, come now, your meal is ready. Then she came to the image of Gopala and said, oh my Gopala, come for your meal. I was just behind her. Suddenly she looked at me and said with a smile, I am inviting them all to their noonday meal. With these words, the mother entered the room where the food was offered. Her earnestness and devotion made me feel that the deities listened, as it were, to her words and followed her to the offering room. I was pinned to the floor with wonder. In the middle of 1909, Holy Mother contracted chickenpox and became very weak. She was quarantined in her room. Within a few weeks, she recovered and began to worship the Master as usual. Swami Saradananda then engaged Swami Shantananda to assist Holy Mother. Shantananda recalled, we used to arrange flowers and cut fruit for worship. The mother always wanted to perform the Master's worship by herself, except when she was not well. If we tried to clean the shrine floor, she would forbid us to do so and did it herself. The mother's method of worship was unique. After sitting on the asana, she did akamana, which is purification by sipping water. She then gave the Master a bath by dripping a couple of drops of Ganges water on his picture with a copper spoon. She carefully and gently wiped the water off with a soft towel, put a dot mark on his forehead with sandal paste, and slowly placed the picture on the throne. Then she put the images of Gopala and other deities in a copper basin and gave them a bath together, wiped them dry, and placed them on the altar. She offered worship articles, decorated the Master with flowers and a garland, offered naivedya, which is arati, fruit and sweets, and finally merged into meditation. She remained absorbed in that state for an hour. Someone had to touch her body to awaken her. Thus, after finishing worship, she distributed the prasad in leaf bowls to everyone present. She gave more prasad to the servants and the household cook, remarking, they work hard, so they should have more good food. After taking a little prasad, she would go for a bath in the Ganges with the Golapma or someone else. There is a footnote for this, Brother Shankara. She would go for a bath in the Ganges. Ganges has a footnote. It seems that previously she took her bath in the Ganges every early in the morning. This story comes from later in her life. That's what they're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
There did seem to be a contradiction. I'm glad there's a footnote.
Yes. She returned within an hour, and Golapma would carry a pitcher of water for the next day's worship. Afterwards, the mother would sit in the room adjacent to the shrine and prepare betel rolls for offering to the master.
He was very fond of betel rolls. In life, he took them often.
We have about 5 minutes or so. Do you want me to continue the next paragraph and stop there?
Yes.
Okay, we have a small. When the cooked food was ready, the mother went to the shrine and offered it to the master. We used to have our prasad in the big room to the right of the staircase. And the mother and the women devotees had their prasad in the room adjacent to the shrine. After lunch, the mother took some rest, changed her cloth, and washed it. At 4 o'clock, she roused the master from rest and placed the picture on the altar. The mother gave darshan on Tuesdays and Saturdays from 5 to 6 o'clock. She sat on her cot, dangling her legs, covering herself with a chadar. The devotees would come one after another, bow down to her, and leave. Any person with a question would come at the end, and the mother talked to that person. It was the mother's order that every devotee should have some prasad before they left Udbodhan. One day there was a shortage of prasad, so I suggested that it would be enough if they got a small amount each. Immediately the mother said, no, you go to the market, buy some sweets, and I shall offer them to the master. If the devotees eat well, they will feel an attraction for the master, and thus they will develop devotion.
Okay, that we can leave it at that. And we'll start with Swami Arupananda. Is that who it is?
Yes, we can start that next week, Brother Shankara.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Any comments?
Yeah, anything from anyone? Any comments or questions from anyone? All right. This may seem an odd thing for the Swami to have done, to go into all of these details about Udbodhan house and the mother's life there, her routine. But many people are very deeply interested in these details of the mother's life. They use them as part of their meditation. They will focus on the mother's, like this incident with the priest, or how she would prepare the images for worship and so on. Not only will they sometimes emulate these things, do them themselves, but they'll meditate on them in the way that Patanjali recommends in chapter 2, concentrating on them so that their meaning becomes revealed to them. This is why the Swami goes, it's in the spirit of being complete, partly that, but also because he knows that there are devotees who are very devoted to the mother, who will use this information as part of their recollection and contemplation and meditation. Anything else from anyone? All right. Dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, come to me, offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this your jungle world. Om, Amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. Any final thought from anyone? All right, there wasn't as much discussion and question as there usually is because of the nature of what was being read. So we'll look forward to next week. And of course, tomorrow night at the same time, 8 p.m., we'll study chapter 14 of Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga, a very powerful evocation of your being the divine, you as the divine being. He asserts it in as forceful a way as Vivekananda ever asserted anything, which was forceful indeed. So it's a very interesting thing to hear him tell us not to think of ourselves as other than the divine being. So then, of course, there will be no Saturday class this coming week. Normally we have a Saturday class at noon, but I've been invited to come and speak to the Catholic Archdiocese class for new deacons. They have something they call a deaconate formation class. And they want to hear every year these new deacons as they're being trained. There's a desire to hear what we teach here. And we're not alone. They hear from a number of different traditions. But it's a very interesting experience to go talk to these people because they know very little about Sanatana Dharma, commonly called Hinduism. And so they often have some very interesting questions. So anything else from anyone before we close up for the night? All right, dears. So good to have had you with us.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Thank you, Brother
Thank you,
Shankara.
everybody.
Thank you, Hamaji, for reading.
Thank you. Thank you, Shailesh. Thanks, everyone.
And
Night.
good night to you all until we meet again.
Good night.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.